I'm recording this on Friday the 13th in October. I'm just time stamping this because I'm 99.9% sure this is going to happen next year, so consider this my crystal ball moment. That's kind of my concern when it comes to consolidation. It's not about a lack of competition. It's not about, oh, they have exclusives that won't be on my PC or my PlayStation or my Nintendo Switch. My thought is that I do think that this is going to lead to firings. It's not even directly because of the Microsoft deal. It's because now I think it's showing other companies that you can just buy a chunk of the game industry.
No shit.
These companies typically end up buying studios and then firing a bunch of people. Epic Games just did it, obviously.
Hey, this video is sponsored by Epic Games.
My thought is that I do think that this is going to lead to firings. Epic Games just did it, obviously.
Hey, this video is sponsored by Epic Games.
Keep that same energy.
Well, guys, it's over. It is finally over, bro. This long saga of the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft has finally come to a close, with the UK formally announcing that the CMA will be approving the purchase of Activision Blizzard King by Microsoft, and it will be officially joining the Xbox Game Studios family. Now, before we get into this, I just want to get something off my chest because I know it's coming. Now that Microsoft owns Call of Duty, there's going to be a lot of Xbots out there who in the past, in my comment section, I know who you are, I have a very good memory, who used to give me shit for being a huge Call of Duty fan. Well, guess what? All I can say is you motherfuckers better be able to
Keep that same energy.
Because if I see y'all out here fake fanboying over Call of Duty now just because Microsoft owns them, I'm gonna call you guys out at every opportunity because I've seen all the comments of people saying,
oh my god, he has Call of Duty brain rot. He wouldn't know if a good game slapped him across the face.
Because, you know, I don't like games like Hi-Fi Rush, or I thought Starfield is pretty mediocre at best, but try me. I have a very good memory, so if I see you guys out here fake fanboying over COD just because it's part of the Xbox Game Studios family, you will be getting called out. But overall, I think this is really positive news. I'm just glad it's over with, man. This was drawn out for way longer than it needed to be. In my mind, this has always been a pretty simple solution. I never saw a reason why this couldn't go through. I mean, even with Activision Blizzard, Xbox is not even close to the size of PlayStation in terms of market share, so this was kind of a fucking no shit moment, and I don't really know why it took as long as it did, in all honesty, because this should have been a cut and dry, like, oh, it's a video game company getting purchased by a software company. Oh, the shareholders voted to sell their company? Great, let's approve that and everyone can get on with their lives. But of course not, dude, because of the purchase price attached to it, which, you know, $69 billion, it doesn't really get much better than that for a headline. You know, because of that price tag attached, every government official and their mother is drooling for the opportunity to make a fucking news headline as the person who stood up against big business and big tech. And this got drawn out for basically 2 years at this point. So we finally have come to the natural conclusion that I've always thought should have been the conclusion from the very beginning, and everyone who bought Activision shares during the whole sexual assault allegation phase of the company for $52 a share, like myself, can finally get that cash money, baby. And in fact, I cleared over $6,000 as a result of this acquisition, so I am feeling pretty good right now. Well, at least much better than Dreamcastguy's shirt.
Who aren't even... I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad because I feel like in some way I tacitly... My money went to this. This stupid t-shirt that I bought is fucking part of this... Excuse my cussing.
But this marks a very interesting era for Xbox because they're officially what I would consider to be too big to fail, because even if Microsoft's hardware division in terms of gaming doesn't work out and Xbox consoles go the way of the dodo, which at this rate it looks like they are, I mean shit dude, even the Xbox One was outselling the Xbox Series X at this point in the generation, which is not a good look whatsoever. I mean, let's say Microsoft does exit the console market or the Xbox consoles just stop selling tomorrow. They literally have two of the largest third-party, or I guess former third-party publishers under their like umbrella of Xbox Game Studios, and they can basically just operate that business unit as a third-party game developer. So Microsoft, I think, has permanently bought themselves a place in the video game industry, which if I was Phil Spencer, I mean, that's kind of what I would try to do, because even if I can't sell consoles, I'm literally such a large producer of video games that essentially I have infinite job security at this point, because I manage the largest third-party publisher of video games on the market. So I guess congratulations are in order for Phil for his indefinite job security. So big ups, Phil Spencer. But I don't know, man. The reaction to this is basically what I was expecting. You know, a lot of PlayStation fanboys are having mental breakdowns, you know, reminiscing in the days when this was still questionable in their minds. I don't really know how anyone with a logical mind could have felt that way, but then again, we're talking about PlayStation fanboys, and I don't think anyone's video would sum it up better than old Dreamcastguys.
What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, talking today about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal, because it is now officially done.
Dude, I love the fact that it's raining in the background to really set the mood for this video and how he's feeling.
It is completely finished. As of about 10 minutes ago, officially, Microsoft owns Call of Duty and World of Warcraft and Diablo, and is now going to put it in their cabinet with all the other game studios they've bought, like Rare and Doom and freaking everything else like Skyrim. But I want to discuss this because in this instant fallout, it does feel like a lot of gamers are debating whether this deal is going to be good or bad.
I mean, does anyone want to place a bet at where he falls on whatever side of the debate, whether this is good or bad for the video game industry, dude? Because I thought we've already had like 2 years at this point to debate the merits. Like, do we really need to go any further than that? Like, it's pretty cut and dry in my opinion, because Activision Blizzard wanted to be purchased. If Microsoft didn't buy them, it was looking like Facebook would be the one to buy them. And if I have to choose between Microsoft, the owners of Xbox, and Facebook, which has little to no interaction with the video game industry whatsoever, outside of Farmville and Oculus, I'm going to choose Xbox every single time, because at least they have an actual history in the video game industry, whereas on the other hand, Facebook and the Zuck's only history as of late is tanking their own company. So if I have to choose between Microsoft and Facebook, Microsoft is definitely the lesser of the two evils if you want to look at it from that perspective, because obviously Dreamcastguy is not in favor of this acquisition whatsoever, but at least Microsoft is an active participant and a known agent within the video game industry, who's not a complete unknown actor in this industry like Facebook, who even knows what the fuck they would do with Activision once they got their hands on it. They could completely tank the company tomorrow, like our boy Zuckerberg has already done with his own.
In the long run, let's discuss. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But here, the instant thing that's just kind of crazy is to try and actually grasp the scope of this. Microsoft just purchased Activision Blizzard King, the development studios that make stuff like Call of Duty, Overwatch, Diablo, Candy Crush, Crash Bandicoot, Guitar Hero, and much, much more. I mean, even Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I mean, the sheer size of this acquisition cannot be understated.
Dude, he literally sounds so depressed over this shit. Like, did he not see this coming the second the FTC lost their court case? Like, this has been known for months, basically, at this point, that it's going to be going through. Like, you still haven't come to terms with it, and now it's really starting to set in all the games that might no longer be able to be played on his precious PlayStation. Like, boo-hoo, dude, move on.
And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure this deal would actually get done. When they initially announced this buyout in January of 2022, it seemed pretty open and shut. I mean, they said they were going to buy it for $69 billion. I thought they would just walk up with a briefcase full of cash and do it.
So you weren't sure it was going to go through, but then you think that Microsoft was just going to walk up with the cash and do it? Like, which one is it, bro? You can't have it both ways. Did you predict it was going to go through, or did you think it wasn't?
But instead, this acquisition was slowed down by 20 months of regulator battles, both here in the United States with the FTC and obviously the CMA in the UK. For a lot of this year, I've said this in videos, I was actually pretty sure the deal would get blocked, or I was kind of assuming that because of these crazy long battles, I thought that maybe they would break it into chunks. I thought maybe that Microsoft would end up buying Call of Duty and leaving behind Blizzard. In fact, that was the main thing that was being talked about.
Bro, who was talking about this? Because I've never heard anyone pertaining to the situation, that being Microsoft or Activision, mention any possibility of that happening. It was just a bunch of fanboys on Twitter and YouTube like yourself speculating because they had no idea what the hell they were talking about.
By lawyers in court. But they did manage to make some concessions and get this all done, which officially makes Microsoft the third largest gaming company in the world, right behind Tencent. Yay, Tencent. Don't we love the fact that some giant mega conglomerate is just buying up game studios?
But what happened to Monopoly, bro? Like, I thought this was going to monopolize the video game industry. What do you mean they're still behind Tencent and Sony? I thought this was literally the definition of a monopoly. I mean, according to my favorite gaming YouTubers like yourself, you all said that if Microsoft bought Activision, it would monopolize the video game industry and competition would no longer flourish. What do you mean Sony's still bigger than them? What do you mean Tencent's still bigger than them? I thought Microsoft would literally own the entire industry at this point if this went through. The amount of people that don't know what the fuck a monopoly is in this entire situation is absolutely incredible, bro. Like, I feel like every gaming YouTuber, before they ever utter the word monopoly again, should have to take like some sort of economics class to actually understand what the fuck that shit actually means. And you have to love the fact that he ignores the Sony part at the end of that. He only mentions Tencent because it makes him look like a fucking fool to mention the fact that even after this acquisition with Xbox and Activision combined, it literally still does not even equal the market share of Sony itself. So this entire monopoly argument is a complete fucking joke, and even now he's still trying to manipulate the facts to fit his and many others' initial narratives about this entire acquisition.
Okay, so let's talk about this because some people initially are very much celebrating. People are happy because in the short term, this is truly fantastic for Xbox Game Pass.
Actually, it's the opposite because in the short term, they're not adding anything to Game Pass until a future date. So we got to wait at least a year for major games to start coming to Game Pass.
The sheer amount of stuff that's about to get added to Game Pass is absolutely insane. And I'll be honest, I have Game Pass. I'm going to play the heck out of a lot of these. I'm going to enjoy the heck out of a lot of these. But I'm a little bit concerned about the long-term ramifications of it because we are talking about the consolidation wars.
And like I mentioned before, it was either Microsoft or a company like Facebook acquiring Activision Blizzard. They were up for sale, they wanted to be acquired. So the best case scenario that could have happened in my mind is an actual gaming company that partakes in the video game industry ended up buying Activision Blizzard. I think that is a much better situation than a company like Facebook owning them, hands down. But the problem is with a lot of these people that make gaming related content is they fail to see the larger picture. Like, they don't understand that there's something outside of the video game industry itself, because consolidation is going to occur whether we want it to or not, because video games are the next entertainment gold rush and companies will be buying up studios whenever they can. I mean, Disney's even in talks apparently to start looking at acquiring EA, for example, but Dreamcastguy is too narrow-minded. He's not looking at the overall tech sector, because whether you want it to or not, gaming consolidation is going to occur. But if that's the case, wouldn't you rather it be like from an internal actor within the video game industry, a company like Microsoft acquiring game studios versus a company like Google, for example, whose only foray into gaming is the failed Stadia, or Amazon, who's taking a similar approach with their whatever it's called, Luna platform? Or would you rather Tencent swing in and pick it up, or a company like Facebook? So you have to look at things from an overall market perspective. We're not just narrowly looking at the gaming industry here. The entire tech sector is at play, and I would much rather a company with an actual history in the industry like Microsoft be able to pick up these studios, because at least they have some sort of established standing within the video game industry.
Bobby Kotick is still going to be in charge, and obviously he's a jerk.
Flexing on the broke.
But people are talking about the fact that Is this a monopolization of the industry?
No, you fucking dipshit. You literally read earlier that Microsoft, even with Activision Blizzard, will still be smaller than Sony and Tencent. How the fuck would that even come close to qualifying as a monopolization of the industry?
Microsoft has literally trillions of dollars, and
No, they don't.
they've talked about having so much money. Microsoft has also admitted that they are not profitable.
Wait, Microsoft is no longer profitable? I mean, then why are they, the second most valuable company on planet Earth?
Xbox has pretty much never really been in the green. They're always losing money. They're just buying studios because they're hoping that eventually it makes money. And the reason that makes me nervous is because as big as Call of Duty is, as big as World of Warcraft and Diablo are and stuff like that, I am concerned that their size, their unwieldiness of these studios are what are going to cause Microsoft to possibly start doing mass firings.
Oh god, dude, are we really going to change the narrative that much to now it's no longer about the monopolization of the industry, but now game developers might lose their jobs? Yes, anytime a company merges, there's going to be layoffs. You don't need 2 HR departments, you don't need 2 accounting departments, you don't need 2 finance departments. There's going to be a lot of overlap, and why the hell would you pay 2 people to do one person's job? I mean, this is the level we've reached now, guys. Like, these motherfuckers literally didn't win the monopolization of the industry argument, and they looked like absolute fools, so they're shifting the goalpost to make it look like Microsoft is the big bad company that's going to ruin people's lives and get rid of their jobs. Well, the same thing would have happened regardless of who got Activision Blizzard, or even worse, if Activision Blizzard wasn't acquired in the first place, even more people could have potentially lost their jobs in order to boost the share price back up to the company's all-time high. So this is just a pathetic attempt to virtue signal and try to once again frame Microsoft in a bad light, and it's just laughably obvious, man. This is really pathetic, even for Dreamcastguy, dude.
Who aren't even... I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad because I feel like in some way I tacitly... My money went to this. This stupid t-shirt that I bought is fucking part of this... Excuse my cussing.
Now, I'm recording this on Friday the 13th in October. I'm just time stamping this because I'm 99.9% sure this is going to happen next year, so consider this my crystal ball moment. These companies typically end up buying studios and then firing a bunch of people. Epic Games just did it, obviously, laying off a bunch of people at Mediatronic, firing everybody who made Fall Guys.
Hey, this video is sponsored by Epic Games. What you're putting into them is blood money.
I mean, this stuff happens constantly. In fact, even Embracer Group did this. Embracer Group bought tons and tons of stuff like Tomb Raider and Perfect Dark. They bought every studio they possibly could, and then after it, they closed most of them, canceling games in development, laying off staff because they messed up a $2 billion deal.
Yes, Dreamcastguy, employees cost money, and when you don't have the money to pay them, you have to let people go, otherwise the entire company shuts down and no one has a job anymore.
Now, this is not me attacking Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is doing their best. I think Activision Blizzard, despite their faults, is trying to make good games.
It's now that we realize what you're putting into them is blood money. Activision Blizzard is screwing over actual people. Real women are having their lives ruined by crappy managers who aren't even... I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad because I feel like in some way I tacitly... My money went to this. This stupid t-shirt that I bought is fucking part of this... Excuse my cussing.
Keep that same energy.
I'm also not saying that Microsoft sucks or is dumb. I'm saying that companies like this, when you start getting out flow charts this massive...
I just want to point something out, that this was not Microsoft who put this chart together. This was literally some Xbot that worked for, I don't know how long this took, making custom marketing material for Microsoft. Like, you really can't make this shit up, dude. Microsoft basically has free slave labor from their Xbox fanboys on Twitter.
a lot of times it starts end up looking like too much bloat. Companies like this acquire stuff because the brands are valuable and not the people. Now,
Well, what good is a fucking video game IP with no one to actually develop it? That makes absolutely no sense. In fact, I would probably even argue that Microsoft's biggest weakness in the video game industry is the fact that they're unable to retain key talent from the studios they acquire.
obviously, you and I are gamers. We don't care about flowcharts. We don't care about profitability margins.
Again, I just want to point out the fact that a supposed Xbox superfan spent hours of his time making this flowchart for free for Microsoft because instead of playing those amazing Xbox games they love to talk about all day, they spend their free time making free marketing material for Microsoft.
We want good games. I'm afraid that when big companies buy stuff out, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if it's not instantly turning in a good amount of profit, they start to trim the fat and fire the heck out of the real human people making games.
Yeah, I would say after 5 or 10 years of not delivering anything, you probably aren't entitled to your job anymore.
That's kind of my concern when it comes to consolidation. It's not about a lack of competition. It's not about, oh, they have exclusives that won't be on my PC or my PlayStation or my Nintendo Switch. My thought is that I do think that this is going to lead to firings.
See, we're witnessing a shifting of the goalposts here in real time because prior to this, it was all my monopoly, my competition good, my consolidation bad, and now Dreamcastguy all this time was really just deeply concerned about people potentially losing their jobs. You know, what an absolute saint, man. He's not worried about games not coming to PlayStation. He's worried about the people, the humans that make them instead, even though he's never mentioned that fact once in any of his prior videos covering this particular topic. But you know what? Let's take his word for it, guys. He's not just trying to shift the goalposts here to frame Microsoft and the Activision Blizzard acquisition in a bad light. You know, he deeply cares about these people that he's never fucking met once in his life.
Microsoft has already done a big set of firings last year when they fired a bunch of people working on Halo, and they even fired some testers for Starfield and stuff like that.
All right, let's keep this shit a buck, bro. Those 343 developers had that shit coming. They literally shit the bed worse than any AAA video game launch I've ever seen in my entire life. But I'll be honest, man, the Starfield quality testers does explain a lot, because if there was a lack of people who were actually quality testing this game, and the ones that remained were worried about losing their job, it's no wonder why this game launched the way it did and was so truly mediocre. That actually explains quite a bit.
This company is just so many thousands and thousands of employees that even when they fire 5%, that's hundreds of people that are working on games getting laid off. But, okay, even beyond that, here is the reason I'm still not exactly super thrilled about this. It's not even directly because of the Microsoft deal. It's because now I think it's showing other companies that you can just buy a chunk of the game industry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every company already knew this shit, man. That's how a lot of companies get into a lot of different industries. This is nothing new here, and Microsoft is definitely not proving that with this acquisition. I mean, are we forgetting the fact that Microsoft is already well established within the video game industry for what, the past 20 plus years?
In fact, Disney is kicking around the idea of buying Electronic Arts.
This isn't going to happen. They owe like $10+ billion to Comcast for the purchase of Hulu, and then on top of that, they're still paying off the $70 billion they borrowed to buy 20th Century Fox right before COVID hit, and the entire movie and TV industry took an absolute shit. So Disney is extremely broke right now, and they're actually floating the idea of being sold themselves. So this is probably not going to happen. I would not put any weight behind this whatsoever.
Which, very obviously, most people are not thrilled about. Disney sucks.
You know what? For once, I absolutely, unconditionally, 100% agree with what Dreamcastguy just said right there. I fucking hate Disney, and I always have. The House of Mouse can suck my...
7 inches? That's pretty big. Even if you love the MCU, even if you love Star Wars and stuff like that, look at their general output.
I would argue if you're a fan of either one of those things, you have more reasons than most to hate Disney.
Disney will kill a franchise to make extra profit. Right now, Disney is putting out 3 TV shows, 5 different movies, pretty much every single year, and a lot of them just bomb. I mean, they're churning out so many movies back to back to back to completely drown their brands. My thought is that if freaking Disney buys Electronic Arts, they're going to do that as well because they don't understand content release schedules.
Yeah, I don't really know if EA is the best example to use to argue that because EA kind of does the exact same shit that Disney does. Have you seen the state of Battlefield, FIFA, Madden? A lot of franchises come to mind that EA has absolutely butt-fucked over the years.
A company like Disney is not able to understand the fact that we enjoy great games with good polish, good scope, good pricing, but they need a chance to breathe. Hype a game up, release it, move on, start working on the next thing, plan it as a trilogy. I guess my thought is...
Dude, what you just described there is literally the issue you claim to have with how Disney operates, and I hate to break it to you, that's exactly how EA operates right now. They actually would be a match made in hell, in all honesty. The ESPN integrations with their sports games, and then on top of that, they could go and develop a bunch of Star Wars titles and Marvel movie games and all sorts of shit like that. Like, EA would actually be a very good fit for Disney, but they just don't have the money for it right now.
I do kind of agree here with Ryan McCaffrey. This would be awful for gamers because we basically lived this reality from the last 10 years when there was that 10-year exclusivity window for Star Wars games. There was almost as many canceled games as released. Disney's current model of licensing its IP to great devs everywhere is the way. And of course, a lot of people are saying like, oh, okay, well, so you like Xbox just buying up studios, but you don't like Disney buying up studios.
All right, I'm just going to say this. Star Wars Battlefront 2 from EA is probably the best Star Wars game to ever come out. I can hear the Redditors grabbing their guns right now. But yeah, it is a little bit hypocritical to hype up the Activision Microsoft acquisition and then say Disney shouldn't be able to buy it. But I don't really think that's what he's saying. Like, obviously, they have the right to buy it, but it's another thing whether it would be a good fit for the video game industry or not. And I think that's what he's saying. Whereas Activision being bought by Microsoft, you could argue was a very good fit. So it's not that he's saying that Disney literally shouldn't be able to buy them. It's the fact that for us as gamers, it might not be the best fit.
Literally every reply is just about how, obviously these big outside studios just buying everything up. A lot of Xbox people love it when Microsoft buys everything. In fact, I'm sure there's a lot of comments on this video of people happy that Microsoft is just buying up every studio they possibly can. But
I mean, for people who have Game Pass, though, it's a fucking steal. So, I mean, if Netflix had every single TV show and movie, wouldn't that be the ideal scenario versus having to, subscribe and buy multiple different subscriptions? So, on some level, it is kind of nice, the result of consolidation at the end of the day for the consumer when it comes to products like entertainment media, as in video games, movies, TV shows, and music.
I think I'm in a spot where I'm concerned about what this means in 10 years, but in the short term, what can you do? I'm trying to just guess from my own limited acumen.
Very limited.
I hope I'm wrong. In fact, if I am wrong, I'm going to have a freaking party. I would love to be wrong. I hope that everybody keeps their job. I hope that, honestly, Bobby Kotick is about to leave his position here next year. And when he's gone, I hope this means that we get better expansions for World of Warcraft, better content in Diablo. Obviously, I'm a Diablo fanatic with my big-ass necromancer tattoo.
This stupid t-shirt that I bought is fucking part of this.
Obviously, I'm a Diablo fanatic with my big-ass necromancer tattoo. I have concerns, and I think those concerns are well-founded, but I guess we're going to see. This is a messy situation. I'm glad the deal is done because, honestly, talking about a business merger for 20 months was kind of exhausting at times because, let's face it, I'm about as intelligent as a ham sandwich, but...
Oh my god, is that what I think it is? Self-awareness? No.
I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. What do you think about the Activision Blizzard deal?
Well, I feel about $6,000 richer, so that's kind of a, nice feeling to have at the end of the day. But overall, man, I think it's the best case scenario with all of the factors considered. I'd much rather a company like Activision Blizzard go to something like Xbox versus a Facebook or Google or Amazon, because I think it's a much better fit. Also, Activision games have always had a very strong identity with the Xbox brand, especially during the 360 era, so I think it's a really, really good fit overall. I mean, ideally, yeah, every game studio would remain independent, and they would continue to put their games out on every single platform, and we could all play whatever game we wanted to on whatever platform we preferred, and we could all sing Kumbaya while we circle jerk each other around the fire. In the ideal world, that would be the scenario I would envision, because I would love the possibility of being able to play whatever game on whatever platform I want to, instead of being arbitrarily locked to a certain platform, device, subscription service, you name it. But in the world of reality, I think this is the best case scenario that we could have walked away with, considering the fact that Activision Blizzard wanted to be purchased. Microsoft is realistically the only player in the video game industry, aside from Tencent, that has that type of money to throw around towards an acquisition. So I think it's good a company like Activision Blizzard actually stays within the video game industry, and there are some protections in place that prevents Microsoft from just pulling every single game from other gaming platforms like PlayStation, for example. And also, they've promised to bring games to platforms like Nintendo, which I think is a really positive thing. But overall, man, I think this is still yet to be seen. I would love if Microsoft would do some really cool shit, like just giving some of the Activision IPs to some of their existing studios that they already have, because I feel like Microsoft's biggest issue is they've acquired a lot of these studios that are pretty much no-name studios. Like, a lot of them, like, most people have never even heard of a single game that many of them have developed. So I think it would be a really great opportunity to not necessarily divert the assets or, people at Activision to making those back catalog of IPs that have remained untouched, but to take some of those IPs and transplant them in other studios that Microsoft already has acquired that may be more than capable as development teams, but don't have a strong IP to attach their studio's name to, and then they can use those established Activision IPs, game engines, whatever, in order to make games that are going to have more mass appeal than like the unique IPs that they've been working on behind the scenes. So I think that's a really great opportunity for some synergy to be realized, and I would love for that to actually be the case, because Activision has a huge catalog of IPs that just have remained dormant for so long. I mean, one that comes to mind for me personally is Prototype. I would love for Prototype to come back, dude. Like, Prototype is Microsoft's perfect answer to Spider-Man and the other Marvel games that Sony's putting out, because Marvel games are limited by the fact that they're Marvel games. Prototype is everything a Spider-Man game should be. It's gory, it's brutal, it's fast-paced, it's fun, it's a massive power fantasy, it's dark, it's more adult-focused, and you don't have those limitations put in place by having to play as a comic book character. It's okay to kill someone, it's okay to explore darker and more mature themes, it's okay to, like, get a little bit edgy here and there, whereas, Spider-Man has to play it safe, because at the end of the day, they have to answer to Disney, and Disney is 100% about pure IP protection, so they're never going to be able to truly take a risk with that. So I think Prototype is a huge opportunity for Microsoft to kind of establish themselves in like a pseudo superhero type game market, which would compete with something like a Spider-Man, and it could take that genre into places with a true AAA, like, modern game development budget behind it that, superhero games could only hope to go, given the limitations surrounding their subject matter. So I think there's a lot of potential. I just would love for Prototype to come back, though, man. That is such an underrated series. It's one of those series that really faded into the backdrop of the 360 generation, because throughout the 360 generation, you just had so many consistently amazing games coming out after each other that a lot of games just went completely under the radar, and the Prototype franchise is definitely one of those I feel was a victim of that effect. So personally, it's a little bit selfish, but I think that game would do very well, and I would love to see that come back with a new entry, or at the very least a proper remake or remaster. I think would be a great starting point, because I think those games still would hold up very well today. They're a great power fantasy, and overall, if anything can come from this Activision Blizzard deal, that is the one franchise I really want to come back, because, dude, it is an absolute shame that those games did not do better than they actually did. So that's my biggest hope from this entire thing, but it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft proceeds. I know they're taking the drip feed approach for putting the Activision games into Game Pass, which is exactly what I would do. I wouldn't just dump them all in there. I would put like maybe one Call of Duty game in there every few months, because what that's going to do is keep people interested in Game Pass, and at the same time, it's going to revitalize that particular Call of Duty title for a certain amount of time, versus if you just dump them all in at once, you know, it's going to scatter the player base. People aren't going to just flock to one game. They're going to be spread out, and the player bases are going to die off faster. So if you do kind of a more controlled release, it keeps people interested longer, it keeps people engaged longer, and it also concentrates the attention on one particular game at a time. So I think that's definitely the correct strategy, which is what they're employing. So big ups to Phil Spencer on that one. And overall, dude, I think this is great. Again, I'm making $6,000 off of this shit, so I'm ecstatic right now. I got money in the bank thanks to our boy Phil Spencer deciding to go out of his way to purchase Activision Blizzard. And shout out to motherfuckers like Yong Yeah, who way overblew this entire sexual assault allegation crap that caused the stock price to drop as dramatically as it did back in the day, because you made me quite a bit of money. So shout out to y'all. So anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this video today. Let me know your thoughts on the Activision Blizzard acquisition in the comment section below. Are you like me and you're just glad this thing's fucking over at this point, or are you angry about the fact that it's over? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you agreed with anything I said in this video, make sure to drop a like on it. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you guys next time.
My heart rages